But I had to get all day. So
I've heard all kinds of
okay.
people won't buy me flowers.
I'm just saying. I literally was a vomiting child. I had to stay home today.
Well, you just gave me a just scooped on my
You probably yeah, I took a shower.
Anyway, I told the others, but thank you guys for sending flowers.
It's his birthday tomorrow.
Wow, happy birthday. I haven't seen him like that.
Ryan.
Do we need to sing? Do we need to sing happy
Harry, let's
birthday?
Facebook
We could
Live.
sing.
Let's Facebook Live. It is your birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
Dan said, is it really his birthday? I said, let's Facebook
Sing for the
Live.
commentator.
We can
Well, just
sing.
on Facebook, it must be true.
Right?
Gotta be.
So the children tell me. And I hear it hasn't happened in Philly yet.
Oh.
Like, if someone asked how much is the
Okay, we want to get ready to get started here. Profundities.
And it's nice to be able to refresh your memory of what you did know. It's really,
Are we ready?
I don't know.
Take stuff.
Let's get started, folks. Let's take our seats. We'll get going on our workshop. I think we're up and running now on air.
We are on air.
That one running?
I don't know, but mine are.
Come on.
Is our city camera running?
I believe so. Yeah, we have it up. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
The first thing is, under approval of agenda, we'd like to add an item from the fire department that was passed, or that was given to council after the package was sent.
Do we all have a copy?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
and it's, there was some
There it is.
miscommunication on, and so it came in late. Anyhow, it's for equipment purchases that is budgeted, so we're going to need that.
We want that on unfinished or new?
New business.
There we go. So we would add that in. Okay, after Q, R, yeah. Purchase fire hose.
So it is item R.
Yeah. Great.
If we keep working, we might get to the end of the alphabet. Is that something to go for?
Okay, we're good.
Okay, this consent agenda is the minutes and the checks. It's all in your packet. We have the Vice President of the Division, Vice President newsletter, community building development team has some correspondence. Under unfinished business, community building and development team is going to make a presentation. I don't know the extent of that, but they'll fill us in. Under B, again, it's back with the donation and or sale of 174 Pine Street to the Inner City Christian Federation. As directed by council, I did provide you what would be realized in terms of taxes if there was a $100,000 home built there. The total would be $2,290, of which the city would realize $900, and then it goes to the other taxing units. Also had occasion to speak with Kurt Navy about that particular parcel, because when he was here last meeting, he asked, they may have an interest in it. Long story short, the property that the city owns on Fifth, if they secured that, it would serve the same purpose as them getting the one on Pine Street. Because really what they want is something that they can add to their footprint of property that is connected to that piece of property. So the parcel on Fifth Street is questionable whether it can be developed. We certainly know the Pine Street can be developed. So I'm recommending that council either sell and or donate that property to Inner City Christian Federation and allow them to construct a home and get that property back on the tax roll.
And
Yes,
did you find out if there was a lateral for the sewer, or does anybody?
it's available there.
It's available.
Yes. Yeah. According, but I believe I'm correct, Tom, didn't there used to be a home there?
No.
On Pine Street? Okay. But it's available, yes. And then the next is a discussion regarding draft policy and proposed allowable action on agenda items. I met with several of the council members about that, and Councilmember Clark has provided a proposed policy for discussion. Did you have anything you want to add?
If there's any questions about why we went from 7 categories of agenda items to 5 categories, we might want to discuss that during the meeting. But mostly it has to do with those categories already being covered by a considerable amount of discussion and other committees sometimes even. Ordinances, for example, are included, and we know that those already have 2 hearings, so we really didn't need to include those. So, but if there's any other questions, we can discuss those during the meeting.
We're just going to have to, Lynn and I still don't know what format the agenda is going to take, so that's once we finalize the policy, then we'll take a look at that. But we haven't spent any time on it, absent definitive policies. The next is the mayor's business. I don't know if you have anything. Okay.
And I'm working on that.
Yeah, we still have.
Appointees.
Yeah.
I have one that's giving me a yes or a no, but they didn't today.
Okay.
And I asked them that I needed it today. So.
First item under new business is a presentation by Victor Hansen, the president of Display Pack. He'll be here at the 7 o'clock meeting. He's going to just introduce himself, his company, and let council know what his plans are, along with his timeline and what he might want to do. Currently, we're working with Display Pack on the, if you remember, the council strip between West Street where it turns and the building. So we're working on that. We've got a couple of attorneys looking at it because it's adjacent to the old lagoons and want to make sure all the environmental issues are addressed. So that's in the works. And then there was some information included in your packet about the company and a rendition of what they might do with the property. The next is motion to approve Main Street snow removal. We'll probably not need any action on that.
Do we want to strike it from the agenda?
I think it's worth it to go.
Nothing right now.
Mother Nature is taking care of that, so we can just remove that.
That wonderful giant star that's ticking back towards us.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say possibly move higher up into that category, but that'll clutter things and just continue on.
The next is purchase of software and support from Michigan Meter. Tom will go into detail on that with his agenda report. Also, we're looking for approval for an engineering agreement with Fishbeck, so we can get prepared for the resurfacing of Beach Street. And then the fire department has to do their annual flow testing of their air packs. And as you saw in the agenda report, there's only one vendor in the state. So we couldn't go out and get quotes. The next item is approve a quote from Rockford floor covering to replace tile in the back hallways. That's a budgeted item in this year's budget, and 3 different quotes were received.
And I was a little confused. Did it say that we're including these 2 bathrooms here with any kind of covering?
All of the tile in City Hall will be replaced.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
The next is a motion to approve a resolution in support of Proposal 1 for safer roads. And we've got some information on that, on what it means to the city if it would pass. Basically, it would raise the sales tax by a penny, what it would do. It would increase funding for transportation by $1.3 billion annually, statewide. It would generate an additional $100 million in constitutional revenue sharing for the communities. basically what it's going to do is provide new revenue for roads and bridges, protect the funding for the schools and local government, because right now, the tax, a portion of that tax on the gas now is directed to schools and local government.
So the sales tax.
Sales tax on it. So if they redirected that, then we would lose that. So it's going to require that all taxes paid at the pump would support transportation funding. It says it will keep Michigan's gas prices competitive and provide tax relief for lower income Michigan residents. So those are the benefits. It's up to council's discretion on the resolution. But the bigger concern is if it doesn't pass, I don't know what their other option would be. And there has been some talk, and it was talked before this proposal was out, that they would just take that sales tax from the gas, put it to transportation, and their plan was, because the economy would grow, then the state would be able to replace that lost money to schools and local units of government.
Except that right now, they take the money from the, there's plenty of money from the schools. They take it out of the school state aid fund and use it to plug other gaps. So there's no reason they're not going to just keep doing that. I have no...
I'm just so torn. I mean, I like the idea of the municipality getting our money back, you know, from what they did to us 2 years ago. But revenue sharing. Mm-hmm. Revenue sharing, yeah. But now they're creating this puddle of money. They've got at least 4 ways they say they're going to spend it, but they don't really have anything written in stone that says 50% here, 25% there. They're just kind of guessing amounts. It just looks to me like they want to have a big bunch of money that I want this, I want to put it there.
And sales taxes are inherent
I
in
don't
the
like
process.
it.
I really am not.
I don't like that part.
I don't like sales taxes at all. There should be an income tax. There should be an income tax on people. I would be happy to pay it. Sign me up. I'll write a check.
Now, you're saying to have it just for the roads?
Yes. There should be an income tax for the roads on people that make $150,000 or more a year household income, and that's what it should be. And I'm very willing to stand behind it. I would be happy to pay it.
Well,
and it should be guaranteed that it can't be pulled from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the schools, for the cities, for anything. It should be for the roads. And that's what they should do.
The only way it could be guaranteed not to be pulled would have to be...
It's a constitutional amendment. I get it.
Yeah.
And beyond that, they lie.
We still have to vote on it.
I mean, I will say that directly to their faces. You told me you would not. I had this conversation with Tom Pierce when he was the representative, and they pulled it out of the state aid fund to put into
Pierce did that.
what do they call them? The Renaissance zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for rebuilding our cities, but not on the backs of the schools.
Dad, do we have a clue about what it would mean to us? Is it $95 million they're estimating that would go back to the municipalities?
Yes.
Right. Would that be really divided proportionally to us and our population?
Using the same formula that we use now for distribution of it. If, as an example, if this goes through, and part of that $1.2 million will be shared with the local units of government.
Right.
So what that would mean to us locally, we would get almost $48,000 extra for roads.
In theory.
Dedicated.
Oh, this is only for roads.
For roads.
Yeah.
But what about the makeup for the revenue sharing?
That.
No, somebody tell me, it's 48,000. Is that a good number for us, 40,000?
I don't.
I didn't find an exact dollar
What do you think? Is that a good number for us, Tom? I mean, it's obviously better. 48,000 was it, Pat, for roads?
Excuse me?
Did you say it was 48,000 for us approximately?
Roughly a $48,000 increase. And then, I believe I'm correct in this, that our revenue sharing could go up maybe 30,000. potentially.
Just based on population or even?
Yeah, they have a funding distribution.
I'm very willing to pay more taxes.
I want it clean.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is-
just very frustrated that I feel like we support these things, and the thing that is supposed to get fixed doesn't actually get fixed.
And there's all these little undercurrents, like they're gonna take the registration for your car, and where it used to be, what? The first time when you bought it new, you paid 0.5%. The next year it was down 10%. Next year down 10%. They do that 2 or 3 times. And then it stayed there for the life of the car. So now what they're gonna do is say, you buy a new car, and you're the third owner, and it's 10 years old, you're still paying a registration based on the new price. It's not a lot of money really, you know, it's like what, $25, $30 probably per year, but maybe a bigger issue then becomes, is it any longer an ad valorem tax or an excise tax?
Right.
Because if it becomes an excise tax, you can't claim it on your federal income tax as a deduction, if that's important to people, which some people it is and some it isn't. But it's so messy.
I
Tell you,
agree.
that's
I agree.
we're never
And
gonna-
again, it feels regressive to me. We're trying to tax the things that the people who make the least amount of money are most heavily impacted by.
And of course, they're trying to make up for that by restoring the child.
Earned income tax.
Earned,
Yeah.
right.
We're not gonna solve this here.
No, we're not.
And it's gonna go on,
I'm just saying,
whether we approve it or not.
Right,
It's
but
still
if
gonna
we
go to the
support
vote.
it or not is,
It's still gonna go to the vote of people whether they want it. It's just the decision
Amen.
here is, do we wanna support it? And we can cover that moving on. Thank you.
The next is approve a utility easement with Tom Wolf. And this has been a real eye-opener for me through this USDA project. It was just amazing for me to realize that we have infrastructure on property that we don't own or have an easement for. It's really,
Someone dropped the ball years ago.
well, I don't know, some of these go back so long, it was probably just a handshake deal and we're good to go. In fact, the next one we talk about, it originated in an oral agreement that they finally reduced to writing.
I like that one.
And I
yeah.
It is.
you know, I brought that up to our city attorney and city engineer, and I said, that's common stuff. We're not the only community.
It's
It was
ongoing.
it was an eye-opener to me. So the first one is on property owned by Tim Wolf, and it's really, if you extended Linda Street north between Ash and Beach, there's a strip there that we have sewer. So we need to get there because we're going to replace it. And he is asking in return for the easement that we pay him $2,000. So that's before the council. I'm recommending we do it. Again, keep in mind, this is almost a $3 million project, and I hate to get hung up over $2,000. Well, we couldn't even put it there.
It don't flow
Oh,
uphill.
what was that, Perry? I couldn't hear it down there.
He's sliding with a helicopter.
Oh.
So that's my recommendation, is that council
Keep
approve
your
it.
feet on.
The next one is a utility easement, an access easement with Robert Slater at 202 Beach. Basically, the city has their well number 3 on that property. And again, we don't have any easement, we have an agreement, and prior to the agreement, we had an oral agreement.
Yep.
And basically, what the current agreement says, I'm going to paraphrase this, at that time, it was the village of Cedar Springs agreed to pay the water tax for use of water in the dwelling house and barn of the first parties during the entire length of the term of this lease. So,
Jerry's saying yep.
in essence, we've provided free water and sewer services to that property since we've had a well there.
Well, the utility fund has paid, we can't give away free water. I know it was structured in there that the water department had to pay back the water department for the water that went into that house. It's
But the bottom line is they get it for free. So
Yeah.
we're putting this into an easement.
Crazy.
And it's, it's good to have it now, but it was again precipitated by this process that we're going through with USDA and their federal government. You got to check the boxes and check them right. So the only difficulty that is presented is they won't let us go out for bids until we get all these done.
Sure.
So we still believe that we've got enough time to get the bids out and complete the project this construction season. But it was something we had not anticipated. The next is paid, and I'll let Ms. Powell, you want to elaborate on that?
K,
Yes.
the discussion regarding a policy on the authority to withhold from council and the public reserved for future viewing, edit or copy any part of the entire original video recording created during an open meeting of the Cedar Springs Council. I never dreamed we'd have to have a policy about it, but apparently we do. Who's in charge of it? Who's going to upload it?
But I don't think that's at issue. The issue, this whole situation stemmed from the technical issues that we had at the last meeting. It didn't, the Wi-Fi kept going in and out, and it was manifested by the council's screens going blank, and it caused gaps in our recording. And in talking to the support for the camera company, they said you can't make, if you have gaps, you can't have a continuous tape, or a clip as they call it. So I discussed this with 3 council members, and as I likened it, Rose was really adamant about putting it up on YouTube.
I just wanted to see it before.
And you did get a chance to see it. But I said I was not going to put it out there because it was not a complete tape. I'll look at the numbers, but basically on the council meeting, we were missing somewhere in the neighborhood of a half an hour or more of the recording. And out of the workshop, we lost about 5 or 6 minutes. And it wasn't continuous.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of gaps. So I likened it to giving somebody a book, and every 4th page pull out 6. And how long does somebody want to read that book? And if we're going to want people to look at that, we better put out a good product. So I said I'm not going to put it up there because number one, it's not going to reflect well on the council. And number 2, if it's not continuous and there's gaps or there's missing time, the first thing, Paul, I would expect is from somebody saying, what are you hiding? What did you edit out that you don't want us to see? And I don't want to run that risk. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We do have some discs burned with it. Thank you, Molly, for doing that. But again, it's not a complete, continuous rendition of the meetings. So we've already got to figure out, who's going to be responsible for making the clips and uploading it. That's not an issue. It really boils down to my not putting that out.
So, Rose, I want to be clear here now. Excuse me, Gary, do you want this available to the public? Would you be content just to have it available to the council if they want to see it? Would you think that we need to have it in our archive for any future reference? What are any of those possible things that we could do and still not do, but Thad doesn't want to do it, put it out to the public?
I think it should be preserved, at least in our archive. I thought by looking at it, it was from what I saw, it was great. It was nice to be able to go back and look at it and see, well, what did we discuss? It kind of jarred your memory as to, you miss things. And I thought that meeting was important. We discussed a lot of important things, and it was nice to be able to go back and see it again and refresh your memory and bring it on to the next meeting. But who's to say, you know, you took the responsibility to say that you don't want it out there, but we, as a council, didn't have a chance to see it or determine how we felt about it. That was a big issue for me.
So just to clarify, so is what you're looking for that we look at language going forward on a policy of how it gets determined about what gets put out and when and how and...
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have to, that should be a council vote.
Okay.
In my opinion, if it goes bad tonight, again, we have to know who's going to be in charge of it.
Right. Can I say something?
I know this is all a learning curve. We're getting into this area. We're all learning how this is going to happen. Unfortunately, we had a technical difficulty and a failure. The first one didn't get out on the air. I looked for it while I was out of town. I think we should store them, archive them, just to eliminate any problems with someone saying we're withholding. If they do, we show them to them.
Yeah,
This was a bad crop. This was a bad film, okay? Let's, from here on out, we need to save them. I think we have one. I understand we have a copy. Let's archive it. And the next one moving on tonight, hopefully it'll get put on the air. But once we get all the bugs worked out.
Well, and the process is going to be that we're going to make our clips, download them to our server. So they'll always be on our server, and from the server we upload them to YouTube. So they'll always be there, someplace other than just on YouTube.
We now have a way to maintain and store them for a full year once they're... I understood that we had to capture them within 6 days.
Well, we have to, using the camera, we have a 7-day window to make those clips.
Okay.
So once we make those clips, we just download it, store it on our server.
Oh.
So we'll have that forever.
Great. Question?
And from there, we load up to YouTube.
Okay. Let's talk to you.
My opinion, I like the idea of storing them and saving them, but if they're not complete, it is unethical to post them out to the web for the public to see, not to mention the liability.
Sure.
True. That's a learning curve. You know, that was our first one.
My question was, do we have equipment tonight that's going to do it right?
We'll learn that.
Well,
We'll learn that.
we use the new Wi-Fi access points were used at the planning commission. We had no complaints about the screens going blank. We've checked it, I've checked it periodically since they've been installed. We had IT here today, they checked it, it's working famously.
You know, hopefully our equipment, we may have to upgrade some more. But
There was a question about the router.
our first step, we
No question about the router, just
Okay.
the access points.
Okay.
Well,
One last.
my understanding is there's a question about the router. My husband was here
Been
for...
resolved.
It's been resolved. Okay. Okay.
So what it sounds like to me, if I've read the council and city manager correctly, is that really the concern was that there was this 6-day window, and if we didn't capture it, it would be lost forever. And obviously it wasn't good quality, so you didn't want to post it. Is it satisfactory then if it's stored and the council then can see it and make that determination going forward? If at least it is stored and archived somewhere, you know, so if we do make the decision to put it out there, we still can and it's not lost. Would that be satisfactory?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and the intent is, absent any technical issues, we'll be able to make our clips of the full thing, and they get loaded and gone.
But if it happens tonight, what will happen? Will we save it, store it, and archive it?
We'll save it and store it to our server.
Okay. So it will be available for council. If it's goofy, we can come in and look at it.
Yep. You can't, all I can tell you is if there's technical difficulties, we're going to capture what we have.
And beyond that, just again to clarify, if you're looking for language for a policy, like that would be certainly something that could be drafted and brought up to council.
Correct. Yeah,
I mean, like you,
For the
and,
future.
you know, I would be happy to help you with that, or, you know, get another council member and come up with some language, and
we can research other communities and see what they're doing.
sure, policies are always good things to have. Yeah.
Sounds great.
The next is a request to reinstate the council finance committee. And in the background, we went away from that. It was kind of a trial period for 3 or 4 months. Council didn't have any issues with it. Then I asked council's permission to not have it. They agreed, so we have not had it. It was my contention is that it was just another meeting for 3 of our council members that wasn't absolutely necessary because, in my opinion, is all council members should be looking at the bills and taking a look at it. So the council decided to not have the finance committee meet anymore.
I think is what brought this to be with several new members. They weren't they didn't know what some of these bills were, and there was a lot of questions and answers. So that's why it's on the agenda. Maybe some of the newer members could sit on this finance committee for the next year or whatever, or 6, 8 months until they become familiar with the billing systems with the city.
Well, I would just remind all council members, as we've said before, if you have any questions, please get a hold of us.
Yeah.
You know, we will field all the questions that you have.
Okay?
Okay, the next is resolution to amend the current budget. We had to move $3,500 from insurance and bonds expense to miscellaneous expense city council to accommodate the payment of the lawsuit expense. So that's up for council's consideration, and we're asking that council approve that. The next is motion to approve the purchase of a new mower. Again, that's a budgeted,
So that's budgeted.
and Tom will have more to speak to on that. Then O was to appoint a committee to negotiate a new contract with the Red Flannel Festival Board. I don't know.
And I mean, maybe I can speak to this, or the mayor can speak to this, but historically speaking, there was a contract, and that contract is up.
Okay. Basically, the contract is up for renewal, so we would put together a committee of 3 council persons to sit down and with the festival, their board, and come to some terms. A lot of things have changed. We have no longer a place for us to provide. So,
Mr. Mayor?
yes, sir.
Now, if I read that correctly, I thought it lasted through the festival for 2015. Am I wrong or right?
I printed that off. I have it in front of me. It's,
Maybe I was confused about the date when I,
Well, still, I think it's a good idea
through
to
the
go ahead.
15th,
okay.
Through
through 2015, so it's still good this year.
But I still think that it's a good idea to get the committee rolling and let's get the thing negotiated and in place.
Whatever the council desires. So I would be looking for
So
some...
we would discuss tonight, and then at the next meeting, the mayor could come to the committee.
Yep.
If that's what,
The direction of it. Okay.
I'll let you run.
Okay, the next is a request by Mayor Pro Tem Conley to have a discussion regarding waiving the policing fees for the 2014 Red Flannel Festival.
Sure. I think everybody has the email. We basically told them we wouldn't be able to provide police services. We then told them again we wouldn't be able to provide police services.
Good point.
And we then charged them for police services. And it's very confusing to me. I don't understand why we're doing that. I would like to have a conversation about it.
Sure, I can give you some background. Number one, this stems back to last December when I came with the ladies that showed up at the council meeting and had concerns with the bill. And so we had Roger Perrin, who was retired. He was back helping shut down the police department. Had him take a look at it, and the problem was that with that bill was that Acting Chief Potts, he had never done the bill before.
Right, but Roger had sent them an email saying we're not going to be able to provide you any services.
We talked about that, we had the meeting, and we said, we don't know if we're going to be able to provide it. Okay?
Right.
All right, and so we said, if we can, we will. All right, then sometime later, I got
But
the
we
email.
instructed them in the email to go find other people.
And then there was another email that I received from Mark Laws kind of summarizing the points, and one of them was that we weren't going to provide at the beer tent, or at the Grand Lodge.
Right.
And so there was a couple other comments I made, but on that one, I said, remember, there's a chance that we could provide it, and you still want it.
And he said no, right?
No, he said nothing. So
Oh.
anyhow, so I asked Chad today, today was yesterday, one of the 2 days. He was working, and I said, did we end up getting enough people to assign them permanent assignments to the beer tent or the Grand Lodge? He said no. What we had was we had our part-timers and some of our reserves that were assigned to what Chad described the festival area, which was, the tent, the Grand Lodge, the downtown, where there were big concentrations of people, and they were just roaming around, going places. They would go into the tent for a while, go out other places, and so there was nobody dedicated to the tent. They were dedicated to the festival itself because of the influx of people. Now, I don't know why Roger in that letter said that we had provided them. That must have been miscommunication between he and Chad Potts. But we did send that revised bill with a letter from Roger. We also sent an email through Deb, and she said, here it is. Here's a revised bill. You're due a refund. Call if you got any questions, or email or whatever. We heard nothing. And then probably the second week of January, we heard nothing, so we just sent the check. That's the last we've heard of the whole issue. But Chad Potts confirmed, I asked him twice on 2 different occasions, that there were no police officers solely dedicated to the Grand Lodge. They were part of a contingent of officers that were on foot and patrolling around this area and just stopped in at various different places. So it was something that we provided. But they weren't billed for people just at the Grand Lodge. Discussion regarding using the city email accounts versus personal email accounts for city-related business or topics.
Oh, down there, I wanted, because we all have city email accounts now.
No,
still
not
coming.
really. But
Go ahead.
But it's still coming to my personal one instead of my city one. And I do, from what I know from previous conversations with people on legality, if for some reason somebody is getting emails from one of us, like say Thad or Linda, gets upset with how some of the emails are coming across, they sound rude or anything like that, and they decide they want to sue us or whatever, have bid somebody sue the city again. If they were to take that to court, they would have to have all of our emails. And when they do that, if it's going through your personal one, they take all your personal emails. Not just, they have to go through all of them.
that's not true.
They can have mine.
But it's not true.
Yeah.
If they're going to sue you, they first off have to subpoena or request the specific emails. They can't just look at all your emails. That's a fishing expedition, and it's not legal.
Well,
Beyond that, any correspondence that we have as city council members, regardless of where it is, it could be written on a bathroom wall, it could be in a text message, it could be, it's all foilable. So whether it's on a personal email, and by the way, nobody else who works, who the planning commission, the ZBA, none of these folks have emails, and it doesn't work. have yet to get it to open.
Well, and I talked to the owner of the company again this morning, and I've had numerous conversations with him. And because I asked him some time ago, I said, these problems, is that a system problem? Is it a program problem? He said, no. Whenever, because what I do for him is if somebody calls and says, or emails and says, I can't get into my city email account, I share support, Niotech support, an email saying, get a hold of the mayor, here's a contact number, he can't get into his account. And the owner of the company said, it's always because that they don't recall their password or they mistype. And you know, I'm not picking on you, Dan. It just came up. He said he had that conversation with Dan. That Dan said, yeah, that happened, and since they got straightened out, it's been okay. But he said that's been the underlying thing is people don't remember the password.
Mine has never opened, not once.
Well, then I need to know that. In fact,
I said that.
I said, okay, and what I did, and I followed up on that, and I said, how have you done? And I believe it was you, and I can't remember who else.
You said he's trying to call me. I said I've received no message.
Well, he said he's left them and nobody returns a call. So anyhow.
So maybe you have my phone number wrong.
I got the one that's on our list. Anyhow, but my biggest concern is that using the city emails, whether it's coming to me, whether you're reaching out to another council member, that comes through the server, and it makes it easier. Then, and you're right, that if there was a FOIA request, we could come, whomever, because we would have to come to the council member and say, you know, we're looking for these emails. And you could or could not give them to us, and if you chose not to, then we would be compelled to get a court order to do it. But we would have to, you know, it would be inconvenient. As the other way is that we could do it through our server.
I personally need three things to happen for me to switch over to city email. One, it has to work. It hasn't worked. Two, I would like to know who is in charge of running the account, who's the administrator. That's never been made clear to me. Three, I would like to know what the protocol is for obtaining things for FOIA requests. I've been given no information on anything like that. And I currently have email that works quite well.
That's the first I've heard of those three specific requests. But
well, this is when you're saying that you want us to switch.
Well, no, I want you to switch back.
Okay, I've never had, this is my second term on city council. I've never had a city email. There was no city email when I was on previously.
Correct. There was a change.
So I'm not switching back to anything.
Well, switching back in terms of everyone has an assigned account that the staff sends.
But mine has never opened.
We need a better contact number for it.
We need to speed this up. We're almost ready.
I was going to say, in I guess, deference to the time, maybe I'll just say my manager's report. We'll take a little bit of break and then reconvene.
Either or. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Anybody need a quick break?
Just if you want me to switch the camera, or are you testing the other one for me?
Huh?
She said maybe a little later. Reserve the right for a break at 8.
Now or never.
Stretch break.
Be now or forever hold it.
The mayor of Jersey City has made me as is the entire council. It's not a lot of